What's up? I'm Nasko. I'm an electronic music producer from Germany, and I've been making music full-time since 2020. In this video, I want to delve into my newly released preset pack for Faceplant, which is called Bass Forge. Now, Bass Forge inherits 50 presets. Most of these are bass presets, so this is definitely more catered to bass music, but there's a lot of handy effects presets, key presets, leads, plugs, but in general, yes, this is more of a bass preset pack. Before we start, I want to talk a little bit about Faceplant and why I decided to make a preset pack for it. Ever since Faceplant came out, I've always been a big advocate for it because I feel like it's the sort of pinnacle of software sims. You can mold it into any synth you want it to be, and you can pretty much make any sound you want it to make. So much complexity, I wanted to kind of demonstrate how powerful it can be while also streamlining the whole pipeline which it uses. So yeah, let's dive straight into it. Okay, cool. So right in front of me, you can see I have an instance of Faceplant open, and we're just going to hit browse, and here we can see we have the Bass Forge preset pack open. The three principles that I used when making this preset pack, because Faceplant is so complex and it can do so much, I wanted it to be consistent in multiple ways. So the first principle that I used was sort of diversity. One very important aspect of Faceplant is just the fact that it's so versatile that you can make a lot of different sounds. So when making this preset pack, I really wanted to have every single preset be distinct from each other. So what we're going to do is actually just go through some of these presets and check them out. Okay, so the first preset we have right here is called Acid Scream, and it sounds like this. So that's Acid Scream. You can see pretty much all of these presets have at least 4 to 5 macros, so you can really kind of fine-tune them and get different tones and timbres out of them. That was actually another part of the diversity principle, is that I wanted every single bass preset to not just be like one bass sound, right? I wanted them to kind of evolve and change with all the macros that are available. So yeah, let's just go through some more. The next one is Altered Metal, and you will recognize this one when you've listened to the demo track that I made for my preset pack. And another thing you'll notice is that every single preset is usually roughly at -6 decibels. Actually, if we switch over to the other viewer in Ableton, you can see it's roughly hitting -6 decibels. So knowing this, since these don't really need a lot of post-processing, you can just slap on a saturator or a utility and just boost it 6 decibels afterwards, and you will always have these at 0. But yeah, let's go through some more. So we have another one which is called Bass Phased. I like this one a lot. Again, just very in your face. Then we've got other ones which are, again, as I said, sort of with the diversity part. This is a bass roll, so this is kind of used for filling out certain parts in a track, which is super cool. And then we've got something like Chainsaw. And then we've got Crispy Yoy, which has sort of an old school vibe to it, but sounds still very modern. And then we have a color bass actually in here as well, which is kind of inspired by how the sort of whole scene has been evolving a little bit lately. And what's really cool about this one, for example, is that you have different harmonics that you can add and remove. Then we have one of my favorites actually, and this one kind of just demonstrates how complex Faceplant can get in its sound design. And this one is called Elephant, which I personally just is one of my favorites. I love it. And you can control so many things and so many aspects of it. Then we have an FM Re, so if you actually want to delve more into some neurofunk stuff. There's that. Then we have one which is called Harmonic, which is very in your face. And then we have other effects, for example, like Initiate, which is a very good sort of beginner bass or like a filler bass. Then we have one of my favorites, which is Multitasking and Multitasking 2. So this sound is actually very interesting because it's 2 basses layered. So it's one sustain bass and one sort of 4 on the floor type bass, and it sounds like this. And the customization you have in this preset is actually crazy. You can change the crush, the tone, the ring frequency, the ring crush. And you just get these really, really crazy variations just within this one preset that's already 2 basses layered. And then multitasking 2 is also very cool, and it sounds like this. Then we have other presets that are sort of more utility-based, like the noise uplifter, which you have to sort of manually automate for it to do anything. And you have so much control over this. You can control the amount of stereo, the reverb amount, and the morph amount. And even an amp modulator, so you can kind of just make it disappear. So when we turn this up, it kind of just disappears. Super, super cool. Then we have other ones, which are actually a little bit more soft, which is, for example, Passionate. This is actually a piano that I sampled. And if we go higher, or even higher. And you have a lot of control over the wah, the flutter, the reverb, decay, harmonics, everything. Then we have another preset, which is one of my favorites, which is called Psycho. And I love this one because you can layer it. Like, you can have multiple notes playing at the same time. It just gets really chaotic, but it sounds awesome. And you also have a lot of control here. You have control over the pizzicato, the detune, the horror, and the room. So you have a lot of sort of room to change things. Then we have another really cool one, which is Saucy. So this is sort of a lead. So again, most of these presets are sort of bass music focused, but I also have a couple ones in here that they're kind of just things that I tend to also use in this genre. And it kind of just felt like I wanted to show what Faceplant can do in this department as well. So we have drive, we have HP modulation, we have sync mod, pitch envelope, and the sauce. So if we go lower, sounds super awesome. Then we have another one which is called Saw Growl, and this one is crazy too. So what Saw Growl is basically just starting off with a saw wave and then just using the Faceplant effects to turn it into a growl. With this one, we actually have to modulate the filter. And then when you combine sort of changing multiple macros at the same time, also automating the pitch, you get some really, really crazy growls. Actually, I have used 2 of the growl presets in here for the hands-on use cases, and they actually sound like this. So they're really crazy in here. And another fun fact about actually the Saw Growl presets is the fact that I kind of made my own vocoder preset for it. So when you open up these growl presets in this pack, you will see this Snap Heap Voco rack. And when you open it up, I'm actually trying to emulate, and this is, again, something really cool about Faceplant, is that you can sort of emulate most of the effects that maybe aren't necessarily in Faceplant yet. I'm saying yet. And I managed to make this Snap Heap rack that sounds like a vocoder. So when we turn it off, and we change the filter mod, it's not nearly as cool sounding as with the Voco. So yeah, moving on, we have another really cool one, which is called Slinky, and it sounds like this. And then we also have sort of my signature growl. This is a growl that sort of I tend to do a lot, especially the way I set up the whole effects chain. It sounds like this. And then messing around with the wavetable position and the bend modes. You can almost get some like weirdly Skrillex-like growls. super, super cool. Another one of my favorites is actually this vocal synth preset that I made. I actually made my own sort of vocals for the demo track, and I actually sampled it in the Faceplant sampler and then sort of used it as a one-shot type thing. And it's super cool because you can also sort of do some future-based stuff with it. So when you turn up the LFO mix, and then you can change the LFO speed. It's super, super cool. You can change the position. Maybe make it a bit slower. And then you have this little octave function, which is using the pitch shifter from Kilohearts, and it sounds super, super cool. And then you can change the grain size. And you can kind of mix those together. And then with the LFO mix, so yeah, that's the vocal synth preset. And then we have another really, really cool one, which is the womp. And again, you have a lot of control here. You can change the shift, you can change the detune, the sync, and you get some really, really cool sounds out of it. And again, woo, which is one of my favorites. So yeah, those are some of the presets, sort of trying to cover the diversity aspect of this pack. Not only do we have a lot of bass presets in here, but we also have a lot of variety inside of those, which was really, really important for me because I didn't want people to start using this pack and sort of having this situation where you can hear the presets everywhere. Instead, I wanted people to sort of be able to change the preset in a way with the macros so that it sounds kind of like their own sound, which I feel like I kind of achieved here. So yeah. Then coming up with the next one, which is usability. One very, very important aspect for me with Faceplant was the fact that I wanted every single sound in here to be sort of straight out of the box usable. What I mean by that is that some other sims are sort of limited in their post-processing power, and Faceplant doesn't really have that issue. So with every single bass preset you have in here, you load it and you can use it. And that's sort of something I'm really proud of with this pack, is the fact that you really don't have to do much else after all of the effects that I have in these lanes. And one of the main reasons for that, and that is actually part of the simplicity principle that I used, is the UPP Snap Heap rack that I made, which is called the Ultimate Post-Processing Rack. And what it does is it's a set of effects, even multipass is in there, a set of effects that sort of finalizes the sound and gives it that finished, solid sort of output signal that you don't really have to worry about anymore. It does pretty much most things for you. It compresses it, it saturates it, it EQs it, and as you can especially see, it also has a phase fix in it, so whenever any of these effects are applying stereo information to the sub-region of your bass, it kind of fixes that, which is really, really dope. And you have other things like out amp, so you can turn this down, and then the sound is mute, so you can automate that as well. And you have a sub amp, so if you want to use a separate sub, you can turn that down as well. Actually, it's already turned down. So when you turn on the mod wheel, we're actually getting rid of the sub in pretty much most of the bass presets, and some of the other presets, they're doing something else. And that is super useful when you want to use other presets like the amped sub. When you use this preset combined with the other ones, with having the sub off, it sounds really, really, really good, because this is a really, really heavy sub layer for basses. And I think I used it for every single scenario in the demo track. And we can actually do something in the hands-on use case scenario that we have going on here as well. So yeah, that's for the usability. I wanted to make sure that every single preset that you have in here is directly usable. And now arriving at principle number 3, which is simplicity. So one of the things about Faceplant that I feel like kind of scares away some people is the complexity, right? Because it's so modular, you can kind of just do anything with it. I feel like when you make a preset, you kind of know what's going on, but for anyone else that tries to check out that preset, it's really, really difficult to understand if you don't try to streamline it, which I actually tried to do with every single preset in here. So one of the ways I did that is by sort of separating some of these lanes, so you can sort of more easily look over which input signal is going where and where they're sort of getting combined, which is usually in most cases lane 3 is the one where the separate sub and the main oscillator are going into. But more importantly, what I did, and this is something that's sort of very special about this preset pack, is the fact that I made a lot of Snap Heap and Multipass racks. And one of the reasons why I did those is not only because they allow for more sound design possibilities, but also because I was able to sort of streamline a lot of these sort of, I'm going to call them cooking recipes that I use when sound designing. There's always sort of certain things that I do in a similar fashion to sort of achieve a certain sound. And I feel like with Faceplant, we have a great opportunity here to sort of streamline those little cooking recipes into racks. So that's what I did for most of these bass presets. So if we, for example, take Altered Metal, which is this bass, we have a total of 4 Snap Heap racks in here, which is the duocom, the filter delay, shifter, and UBP. Again, as I said, UBP is basically sort of this ultimate sort of post-processing rack that I use in pretty much every bass preset. And these other ones are actually there to sort of shape the sound even further without over-complexifying the whole preset. Because again, it can get very confusing when you have too much stuff going on. Actually, you can see we still have 4 filters in here. This is quite easy to understand, but I feel like it can scare away people when you try to understand something like this, for example, where things are in parallel, things are getting panned, things are getting macroed in certain ways. So I try to streamline a lot of those things with these Snap Heap racks. Again, with filter delay as well, you can see how many macros we have in here. There's a lot of stuff going on in these racks, and I'm happy to give these out for you guys within these presets. You can save them. If you don't have all of the plugins necessary for these racks, I believe you can still save them and use them. You can't just alter them. But yeah, those are the Snap Heap racks. And if we go through more of these presets, you will encounter a lot of these, especially in the preset Passionate. I've made a sort of dedicated reverb for this preset pack, which is called Proverb. And this kind of combines the normal reverb with chorus, with delay, like pre-delays, filters, and all kinds of stuff. And it just creates this really, really nice sounding reverb. So yeah, that was sort of the third principle, which is simplicity, trying to create a pipeline that people can easily understand. And I hope you guys really, really enjoy these racks. And just for the last bit again, I want to go over some of the other presets that I kind of missed that I feel like deserve an honorable mention. So one of the other ones that I really, really liked was, for example, again, coming to sort of usability, is the Super Saw Uplifter. I kind of glanced over this one earlier, but this is super, super useful because I always tend to use these types of uplifters in pretty much any genre, really. And it sounds like this. And what's really cool is that you have control over the max pitch. You have control over the reverb, the chaos as well. And you have control over a high-pass filter, which I added in here just to sort of clean up the uplifter. And as well as the mod wheel, which is doing in lane 3, that's the amp. So basically this is the volume. So when you turn down the uplifter and you have the mod wheel all the way up, it's basically silent. And when you now start turning up the uplifter, it becomes louder and louder the more you turn up the knob. Stomp is definitely another one of the honorable mentions. This one is super tight. And I think it really, really shows what Faceplant can pump out in terms of just really, really aggressive bass sounds. And you have a lot of control over the tightness, the bend, the wavetable position. It's a really, really, really crazy sound. And I think there was another very, very useful sound, which was Quantum. This one is very, very in your face and very gritty. And you have control over the vibrato here, which is super cool, over the grittiness. Another really, really cool one, besides Passionate, is Distant. So Distant is also a very, very cool preset that is very, very useful for intros, and it sounds like this. And what's really, really cool about this preset is the fact that you have this grainify knob, which almost reminds you of something like of the grain delay in Ableton. And then you have a second harmonic in here, so if we turn down the grainify. So all of these are very, very carefully crafted, and most of these macros are really sort of catered to really changing the sound, which I wanted to really achieve, again, with sort of the first principle, which was diversity. And another really, really cool one, which we have in here, is another effects preset, which is called Invasion, and it just sounds like an alarm, really. And then again, you have a lot of fun here changing the macros. And the mod wheel. There's a lot of fun to be had in here. And then we have Alarm, which is actually very similar to Bouncy Lasers. It has this sort of 4 on the floor type background effect sound. This one is especially super useful for rhythm type tracks where everything is sort of 1/4. And again, mod wheel changes the way the pitch affects the saw waves that are being used in here. Super, super cool. And one more preset that I went over earlier that I kind of just want to take a look at again is color bass, because I feel like what's really, really cool about this sound is the second and third harmonic that you can add. So when we play the sound, we can hear multiple harmonics on top of it, and we can actually sort of control the harmonics in here. So we can turn down, say, the third harmonic with it, without it, and then the second harmonic without it, and with it. And this is super, super useful because it basically just allows you to have a little bit more control than with, say, other presets where it's a very, very set harmonic structure. With this one, I try to give a little bit more control over the way this is supposed to sort of work together with other sounds that you can kind of layer with it. Okay, and one of the other ones that I really, really liked is Steel. I tried to really create sort of a metallic sound to it, and it sounds like this. And what's really, really crazy about this one is you can actually turn up the LFO speed ×2, so it's even faster, and it sounds like this. Now again, this is like one of the cases where we'll turn down the mod wheel, have no sub, and then layer, say, the separate sub. But again, you have a lot of control over the way this is supposed to sound. But yeah, that was a little demonstration of my newly released Faceplant preset pack. I hope you were able to learn from some of these presets, and most importantly, I hope you have fun using them. Thanks a lot to the Kilohearts team for bringing this out. This is Nasko. Peace out.